Hey, toy fans, D21 Beast Rob back here with Greg
Hey there.
and Jeff.
How's it going?
Now we're about to break into our episode 4 recap of Iron Fist, episode titled 8 Diaphragm Dragon Punch. I believe I got that right.
Yep.
But before we talk about that episode, I have a little bit of housekeeping. I've already posted 3 reviews for this show. Nice, roughly 10-minute videos just kind of discussing and recapping the 3 previous episodes of the series. And I'm not seeing as much traction on those as I would like on YouTube. And these things do take time to both record and edit. So if you guys aren't into it, we'll probably go ahead and stop with the single episode reviews with this particular episode. And maybe we'll come back and just do a full recap of the entire Iron Fist series at large once we're done, if you guys even want to see that. But for us to know that you want to see more of this content, please be leaving comments in the video, frankly, commenting on what we talk about. So we know that there's some engagement there and that there's actually some interest in doing more of these as time goes on. And once we're done with Iron Fist, we could potentially move on to other TV shows or what have you. So definitely let us know that this is content you guys want. So Greg or Jeff, you have anything to add on that front?
I would just say also let us know if it's something you don't want. I mean,
Exactly.
just say something.
Say something. Yes. So, all right. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about episode 4. We actually had a bit of stuff happening in this episode.
We did.
Of course, at the end of episode 3, we had Danny Rand falling for his life, and I don't think any of us thought he was actually going to die.
I was amazed that he survived.
Show's over.
Right?
3 episodes. We're done.
So it's weird, though. He just kind of grabs a light hanging off the side of the building on the way down. Like, what luck?
Yeah,
So-
that was a pretty weak resolution to that
Yeah.
temporary cliffhanger.
And then he wakes up.
Or
and,
light hanger. Oh.
Or light hanger. But what is he wakes up in Ward's? Is it Ward's office or is it
It's
Harold's like
Harold's.
secret little alcove?
Yeah, it's in Harold's penthouse on the couch.
Okay. So Harold just puts it all out there. He says, I'm dealing with the hand. It's kind of a problem. And he kind of makes a deal with Danny, which I wasn't expecting to see that happen so quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think
Yeah.
honestly, I think at
Go
this
ahead.
point, Danny's his only way out. Like, I mean, he's obviously been trying to figure out a way to get out from under the hand's thumb, or essentially, no pun intended. But,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I think as soon as he figures out that he's got a chance, he's gonna latch onto it. Just in any way he can.
Well, and then Ward warns him there not to trust Harold, so I don't know how to take that warning.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, all of the Meacham kids, I'm getting a weird vibe from them. We've watched a little bit further than episode 4, but it's like you can never quite tell where they stand. I mean, they seem to like flip-flop their allegiances.
Well, and I think they're definitely just out for themselves. I mean, Harold's definitely out for Harold. Ward's just trying to. I don't know. I almost feel like he's looking for a way out at this point, but he's just trying to not screw up too bad. And then his daughter's trying to make a name for herself, but they're all. I think both kids are kind of living under their father's shadow and trying to do the best they can to kind of get out from under that. But there's only so much they can do.
Well, and speaking of joy, we actually get the cover story, or if that's what you can even call it, for why Harold doesn't want his daughter knowing he's alive. So I personally think that it's just a power play that he doesn't really care that she knows, whether she knows or not. So
See, I almost thought that, but there's an event that happens a little later between the two of them that he's very ecstatic for any information concerning her.
Okay.
So, but that's a little farther down the road.
Okay. We also find out, is this the episode where they introduce the Red Hook Pier deal, or I can't even remember now.
It's looming. I don't think they finalized on it yet, but yeah, they've at least mentioned it, if nothing else.
I mean,
Okay.
so other things we got in this episode, like Danny basically said to the press where he was and why
True.
that happened, and he
Very
had to
Iron Man
explain-
moment, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
I was waiting
and
for
he-
some Black Sabbath to kick in, but it never happened.
He had to basically give an excuse for why he got admitted to the psychiatric facility, and definitely did not throw the Meachams under the bus, which, I mean, I can't say I was surprised by that exactly, just because he's in public and that's not the right place to do that. But the Meacham seemed surprised by it.
Yeah, he definitely had his
Yeah.
opportunity, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Also, we find out in this episode that the fights are apparently broadcast online, that Colleen Wing's been a part of, and her students have learned about them.
Well, so I
Yep.
think her student, I think he was actually there recording it because he was the one that was fighting in the first place when she got onto him. So I think he was actually in the stands.
Okay, so
and
maybe
they
I
put it on
misinterpreted that.
YouTube after the fact. Or
Okay.
at least that was how I took it. I could be wrong, but
It's always nice to get hints that the internet exists because
Yeah.
sometimes these shows can feel
Right.
a little bit internetless.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
and and in this show especially, they've already commented on Googling things and using smartphones. I think more than
Yeah.
we've seen in the other Netflix shows.
Yeah, that's nice. They're at least acknowledging that that exists.
Right. We see a bowl in this episode that Joy seemingly has stolen from her, or was it? And it's very critical to the plot line regarding the litigation against Danny and his ownership of the company.
That was in the episode 3, I think. But basically, it became clear that Joy. I mean, not that it wasn't obvious already, but I think she actually admitted it to Ward. In this
Yeah,
episode.
I guess that's what I mean.
She
to
finally
say.
owns
Yeah.
up to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that was a nice touch too. I don't know how much a thumbprint really holds up in court, but we'll see if they ever
It was
get to
enough
that
scare
point.
them.
A note for the just MCU connectivity, WHIH, the news organization that's been around since I think Iron Man 2, was actually present at Danny's press conference, so I like that nod there.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's cool.
And this is just me nitpicking again, but once again we see Jer, and she's sitting in a wide shot with her legs like facing the camera, absolutely no scars on them. Come on. It was worse than Jessica Jones when she was suddenly completely fixed and unnoticeably damaged like the very next day. But I just think it's crazy that happened.
I mean, she's clearly Wolverine's mother. I'm just throwing that out there, and that's where the healing
Right.
powers come from. But whatever.
But I did like the moment with the death stickers, although it is kind of showing that for every adult moment that Danny has, he's still very much a kid who's like excited to be back in familiar settings.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's definitely not, like I said, I keep referencing him to Peter Pan. I mean, I definitely think he's got that same syndrome where his body's grown up, but I don't think his mind's quite caught up yet. At least not as of episode 4.
Right. Well,
He got his 51% of the company back. That was a big beat in this episode.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
He went to that board meeting and made
an
them
awkward first day.
Yeah, made them sell the drug at cost. Which, I mean, I guess what they're going for there is this sort of naivete of being away for so long, not understanding how business works. I mean, it was a little bit much for me, but I get what they're going for.
I thought that too, but then I thought about it. I was like, man, if I disappeared when I was 10 years old and came back, maybe I would have the same questions about ethics in like the business world. I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't grow up around that.
Well, especially growing up in a monastery, like, I mean, he's definitely very being set up as the good guy. So I mean, I could definitely see that being a thought that went through his head. Because I mean, they've made a definite point of saying in these first few episodes that he doesn't care about money. He just wants to, one, answers, and 2, help people.
Well, I was not thrilled. Like, basically, I know he's got a controlling share in the company and all that, but I was not thrilled with, like, I feel like somebody on the board would have made a greater effort to explain to him why they need to make profit off of it, rather than just being like, it's business.
Yeah, and going forward, I don't want to give too much away, but going forward, that definitely does get addressed.
Okay.
In a very big way.
Well, a couple more notes for Marvel Comics or the MCU, however you want to look at it. Colleen Wing wears white in this episode when she's actually fighting the cages. That's a very comic book look for Colleen, so that was really cool to see that.
Perfect.
One of her opponents was Jimmy Pierce, who was a former Navy SEAL and actually a stand-in for the Punisher when he was believed to be dead in the comics, so I thought that was really cool that he showed up. But they didn't really make much of it. She kind of just beat him up, and that was it. So with Punisher being part of this world, I wonder if we're going to see that guy again, or if that was just a one-off appearance.
Well, I mean, I definitely think we'll see Punisher again, especially as big as part as he played in Daredevil. I mean, I definitely don't think we're done with that character for sure. That may have just been maybe just a nod, for the comic fans like Rob. But yeah, I definitely don't think we're done with Punisher in this universe for sure.
Oh, and I didn't mean to suggest that. Yeah, I guess I meant, are we done with Jimmy Pierce at this point?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so. I mean, I would think that would be more of an Easter egg. You never know, though. I mean, they definitely could make a bigger deal out of it, but...
I'd like to see Colleen struggle a little more with her cage fights. I mean, I get the idea that she's really good, but like I don't know, it seems too easy for her.
Yeah, well, Disney's a fan of females getting... I'm going to get myself in trouble with this, but I was trying to make a clever reference to Rey in Star Wars, and everybody thought she had everything too easy.
Yeah, Mary Sue, yeah.
So... all right, so we had an elevator fight in this episode, which I think was their attempt to try to make a really cool fight sequence like we've seen in Daredevil. It didn't work for me on that level. I thought the editing was a little weird, especially when it went split screen. And it's weird, but like a lot of times when Iron Fist is fighting in the show, or when Danny's fighting, I feel like his movements are just slow. Like it's really fast and kinetic in the Daredevil show, and you like feel the brutality when he gets hit. And this one, I just feel like, I don't know, that the fight's choreography has just been slowed down a little bit, or maybe they're actually doing it slower than they should be, and they haven't sped it up in post. I don't know. What do you guys think on that?
I would definitely agree. I wonder if part of it is I don't want to call out the actor because I'm actually really enjoying Finn Jones as Danny, but it could just be physical ability. Maybe he's not able to do all the. I mean, granted, he has a stuntman for a lot of the fights, but that could be part of it. Also, I don't know if they had the same stunt coordinator. I mean, I would think they would reuse a lot of the staff, but I'm not positive. But yes, I definitely did notice it. I didn't have as big an issue with it. I mean, I still, it didn't draw me out of the fight or anything. But I noticed it as well in the first episode when he's first kind of fighting his way up to see Ward for the first time. Like he blocks a good a second to 2 seconds before the blowover comes in with one of the nightsticks, and it was very obvious.
Sure. All right. Well, a couple of other things. The reporter that met with Ward in his office specifically referenced Karen Page when she was talking about changing the cover story of next day's issue. So I thought that was a nice reference. Obviously, she's from Daredevil. The Golden Sands, I don't know. What was that? The name of the restaurant, I think?
Yeah, I think Golden Sands. I think you're right,
Sands. Yeah. We got an interaction with them with the Hand, and we see that Harold was actually disguised as a member of the Hand and killed the person that attacked Joy, which I thought was kind of a nice moment, and not as gory as they could have made it out to be.
Yeah, they definitely could have been a lot
nice
worse.
moment when he hit that guy in the head with a sword.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just like, I didn't expect it to be him, right? And then he gets in the car, it's like, oh, it's Harold. Well, this makes sense then because he had to deal with Gal from earlier. So.
And he moved pretty quick for a guy who's already died once and almost died.
And of course, this episode ends with what may have been a reveal for people who don't know Iron Fist at all. We saw his chest logo for the first time.
I was so excited for that. I knew that it existed, but I was so happy to finally see it. That was definitely my favorite part of the episode.
That kind of brings up something like when you guys were talking about the fights earlier. It's like the speed of the fights didn't bother me so much as what I'm noticing about this show is that it doesn't feel, at least to me, very Iron Fisty. Like you watch Daredevil, and I guess Daredevil, he's just a guy that fights really well, so you're not really looking for that mystical element to come out. Whereas, with Iron Fist, it's kind of felt like just a guy that fights really well who occasionally his hand lights up and becomes unbreakable.
Yeah, and he's taking just as many hits as Daredevil, if not more, and he's supposed to be just this far superior fighter. I definitely got the same vibe, for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is going to be where the show ends up, but in the comics, it seems like anytime Iron Fist charges into battle, his hand immediately lights up, and that's just his shtick, right? And he's taking guys to town, and anymore he can light up both hands. So yeah, it's weird that the show is kind of not really going there with his powers.
Well, and they do make mention of it at one point. I don't know if he's going to progressively get better at it, but there's been a couple times where people ask him, hey, can you show me? And he's like, no, I just did it. It's got to recharge. Basically, it drains his chi. So I don't know if he'll maybe progressively get better or if that's just going to be a thing where, because they don't want him to be too powerful, where it's, he can use it maybe, once a day or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
Yeah.
Also, the very end of this episode, Danny gets a package that has the emblem for Shao Lao. So are we potentially looking at a dragon actually showing up in this show?
Possibly, or
so
at least
that would be kind
someone
of
standing in for him.
Yeah. So anyway, some pretty cool things taking place in this episode. There was a lot of development in this episode. So you guys have any additional thoughts you want to throw in?
That's pretty good.
All right. So yeah, I think we're all still pretty much on board for the show. Do we all feel like the general consensus that the show is not very good? Are we seeing any signs of that, or are we all kind of enjoying everything?
I'm definitely enjoying it. Yeah, the farther I get in, the more I enjoy it. The first episodes were definitely slow, but I'd say as of this episode, and like I said, I've watched a few episodes past, so going forward, I'm definitely hooked. Granted, I had a little bit more of an attachment to the character than probably the general audience did, but I'm all in on the show just as much as I was on Daredevil for sure.
I had no particular attachment to the character, but for me, I've enjoyed this show probably second only to Daredevil season 1 as far as the Netflix shows. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't really care for Luke Cage. I thought Daredevil season 2 was noticeably not as good as season 1. And Jessica Jones was all right, but the first half of that season was better than the second half for me. Whereas so far, I'm really liking Iron Fist.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Same boat.
I'm definitely getting the Daredevil vibe from this show too, and in a good way. So yeah, I haven't thought about ranking them all against each other, but now that you mention it, yeah, I might be in a position where I could consider saying that this is just slightly below season 1 of Daredevil as well. But
So we've all learned, don't trust reviews.
Right. Make your own opinion. Be
That's
informed.
right.
So, all right, guys. Well, like I said at the beginning, we want to do more of these, but we also want to know that you guys actually want to see this content. So let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts on the episode as well. Share your thoughts on what you'd like to see us talk about in the future, apart from Iron Fist. So, Greg, thanks for joining me today.
Yes.
And Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
All right. And guys, we'll be back probably in about a week or so and do just a complete wrap up of the entire Iron Fist series, unless we hear from you sooner. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.